Right, welcome everyone. This is now session 2 of Revit Intermediate. So in our last session we had a look at project phasing and I took you through a little exercise to, I guess, sort of demonstrate how project phasing works within Revit. I also we showed you the assessment task that you will be doing during this particular unit, and it's the assessment task that we're going to make a start on today. And as I said last week, the assessment task, there's only one assessment task which is based around project phasing, and essentially it is a renovation and extension project, single-storey residential. So once we begin the assessment task today, we will continue working on it for the remainder of this unit, and it will be completed towards the middle of June. With a hand up date of the 22nd of June. Alright, so as I said, I showed you the actual project in our last session, so you've all had a look at or know what we're about to do. And I showed you the sheet set that's required, so 9 sheets in total that you'll produce at the end of the assessment task. So we'll get straight into it. Now, if you haven't already, I'll get you to log in to Learn. Now, there were some people away in our last session. Have they logged into Learn and watch the recording from my first session? Yes, no? Good. Okay. So those people are aware of the assessment task and what it involves? Yeah. Good. Now, up on Learn, I've got the assessment task here in this grid. So, assessment task part 1. Now, the part 1 really just denotes the fact that in part 1 we actually just produced the Revit model, and in part 2 we then start looking at the documentation aspect of it. So, part 1, modelling. So I've got the assessment document there. Now that the assessment document itself is not it's not a step-by-step for the whole assessment task. It's really mainly designed to get you started, and really mainly to get you started with the correct project setup, and then to get all the phasing aspect of it sorted out before we actually sort of start demolition and remodelling. So the document itself will sort of stop suddenly. There is a bit more to it, which I'll actually release in upcoming sessions. But the assessment the document here really just outlines the assessment task. So it provides you with a brief, prerequisites, and then the initial project setup. And then it will actually, as I say, it will actually sort of step you through getting hold of the project startup file, and then how to actually then manage that Revit file, and basically do what we did to this building, basically the same as we did in the exercise we did in our last session, where you drew up a building and then you changed the building components back to a previous place in time. So you actually changed them to the existing phase. and then we went from there. So the process for this assessment task is identical. Okay, so hence the reason for doing the exercise. So basically it steps you through the setup, and you eventually get to a stage where you can actually start the demolition based on this floor plan, and then once demolition is complete, we then go on to new construction starting on page 9. So the new construction and the rebuilding of the existing building is based on an AutoCAD drawing. So that's going to assist you with the outline of the extension, drawing the extension, and it will also help you locate all of the new walls and doors and windows in the existing. We haven't yet looked at the importation of an AutoCAD drawing before into a Revit file, so we'll go through that possibly today. We'll see how we go for time. I'll go through all that at the relevant stage. Okay. Yeah, so the brief there, so with this task, you are to produce a complete set of construction documents to communicate the modification of an existing residential building that is to undergo refurbishment, which includes demolition work and new construction by way of an extension to the rear. So the project will be developed using Revit, which is classified as a building information software package. And the concept of phasing or timelining will be used to control and document the various stages of the build. So as I say, the final product will be one Revit file. So just make it quite clear that you're only working in one Revit file for this project. So at the conclusion of the assessment task, you'll have one Revit file, and you'll then have a separate set of PDF A3 sheets. So that will form the basis of your submission. And ultimately what we'll do is we'll actually combine those 9 PDF sheets into a single PDF. So ultimately it comes down to 2 files, a Revit file and a PDF file of the sheets. So, and that will be, as I say, mid-June, end of June. Alright, so we'll make a start. Now, I guess the thing is that it's quite important at this stage. This is going to be quite a substantial project. It's going to take many hours. Well, it's going to take many hours of work. And I guess the thing is that it is quite essential that you save or back up correctly. So yes, it's essential that you have some sort of external backup device. Now, has everyone got a USB device with them? Okay, and are you loading and saving or working from that USB device? Okay. Is anyone using OneDrive or cloud-based? Okay. I guess the thing is that probably it would be good to actually use both. what I've said in the past is that it's okay, and obviously you'll have to save and work from an external hard drive, but it's essential that even that files that you create on your external hard drive are backed up somewhere else. Okay, so you have a second backup or another copy of your files. Because the last thing that you want to happen is halfway through this project that you either lose or corrupt your main file, and perhaps have to start again. Okay, so given the amount of work that you're about to undertake, I just strongly emphasise and suggest that you take measures to back up and protect your main working file. Now, the first thing you'll do is in step 2 here is you'll actually create a series of folders for this project. Okay, so on your external hard drive, for instance, you'll then create the folders that I've got listed on screen. Once that's done, we can then look at downloading the start file, and we can start preparing the file for use. So what I'll get you to do, I'll just get you to spend a few minutes just to actually create those folders. So if you haven't already, just open up this procedure document and have it docked on your second monitor, and just type in create those folders. So once the folder set has been created, note the primary folder, okay, is the 10030 Smith Residence. That's the primary folder. Now, into the primary folder, you will download the start file, which is this one here. Okay, so in step 3.1, go back to Learn and just download that Revit file. Don't open it up in Revit, just download it into the primary folder at this stage. So the idea is that once it's downloaded, you will then just rename it and add your initials. So rename it to that, add your initials, and then once you've done that, once you've renamed it, you can start Revit and then open the file in Revit. Okay, so I'll get you to just work through those 3 steps in step and part 3. Okay, so once it's been renamed, you'll then start Revit and in part 3.4, click Open, browse for the file that you just renamed, and open it. Now, because it was saved in a previous version of Revit, it will go through an upgrade process. So that's a normal process or normal condition. It'll take a little, maybe a minute or two. And you'll then see the floor plan on screen in the FFL floor plan view. Okay, so in step 3.5, we're now going to save file, mainly so that we can actually access the options area and just minimise the backups to 2. So File tab, Save As Project. So File tab, Save As Project. Now the Options button is this one here. This is the options that it's referring to. So whenever you're working with Revit, and I may have covered this before, when you start a new project within Revit, it will automatically, each time you save the project, it will produce a new backup file, and it will ultimately continue creating backup files, and it will actually hold 20 backups in addition to the primary file. So we're going to knock that back to 2. Some people or some organisations actually take that back to 1. Okay, so we'll use 2. So at any point in time, if you have a look at your file set, you'll see the primary file plus 2 backup files. And if for any reason your primary file is corrupt or unusable, you can always go back to the most recent backup. So set that to 2, click Save, and that will create the first backup file. What it will also do, of course, we've gone through an upgrade process, so it will also save it in a 2018 format. Now, an important note here, so please be careful not to open and work in a Revit file that contains a series of numbers in its file name. Okay. E.g., this example here that has a 0006 at the end of it. The 0006 denotes the file is a backup. Now, the thing is that the backup file you just created is 0001. All right, so the next one will be 0002. So the thing is that you must always ensure that you're working on the most recent version of the project file. In other words, the primary file, which does not contain a sequential number. Backup files can be renamed and used in an emergency if the primary file becomes corrupt or will not open. So is that crystal clear. Because invariably I get students submitting backup files up to Learn. It happens all the time. I'm just trying to make it as clear as I possibly can that that's not acceptable, and you will get into, you'll get yourself tangled if you start working in backup files that are older than the primary file that you're meant to be working in. Okay. You'll open up a file and you think, oh, I've lost a whole heap of work. Yes, that's because you've actually opened up an older backup file. Alright? Okay, so having done all that, is everyone okay with that? Everyone got that file sorted out? Almost. Okay, so once you're all okay with your file and you've got it saved, we'll go to part 4. So in part 4, we're going to review current phase conditions. So the project that you've just opened, or you started with, we are calling the existing building, or the as-built. So, as I explained in our last session, this building was probably produced in the mid-70s. So the client perhaps has purchased this or owns this building as a holiday home, for instance. They want to update it, they want to extend it. So our job is to remodel it and then document it. So this is deemed the existing building. So the thing is, at the moment, as far as Revit is concerned, it is considered new construction. Okay. We talked about phases in our last session in Revit. We have 2 phases. Existing and new construction. So whenever you start a new project in Revit, the phase of the view, all views, is set to new construction. So when you start drawing, adding walls, for instance, those walls and those building elements will then take on that phase of new construction. So I guess if it's a new build, you really don't have to worry about phasing and phase conditions. Now, because we have an older building, so we have an existing, what we're going to do is we're going to obviously use those 2 phases, and we're going to essentially take this building back in time and convert it to an existing phase, or change it to an existing phase, and then anything that we add to it will be added into the new construction phase. So we can actually use those 2 time periods to manage the project and also manage the views and the documentation. So we can define which is which. So if we go back to the Revit model, to the floor plan view, I guess initially if we have a look at this view, FFL, if you scroll down to the end of your properties area, in the phasing part, phasing section, you'll see that the current phase of the view is new construction, and the phase filter is set to show all. So if you recall from our last session, depending on what you want to show in the view, you can use a combination of the view phase and the phase filter to manipulate the view and show exactly what you need to. Show all just means that we can see everything, regardless of phase. So any new elements that you add to the building model are assigned to the new construction phase. Now, if we, as we did on in our last session, if you select any part of the building, in its properties down here, you'll actually see phase created new construction. Now, as I say, the first thing we're going to do to this model is change the phase of the entire model to existing. So, in effect, taking it back in time because the existing phase exists before new construction. Okay? So, you remember on the Manage tab, we went to Phases and we had a look at Project Phases here. This is where we've got our two phases. This is where we create and manage phases. So we've got existing and new, and we've got past and we've got future. So our building is currently sitting here, and we're actually going to take it back to here. Take it back, put it back in the past. Now, to do that, it's advisable with a 3D model to make this change in a 3D view, mainly because in a 2D floor plan, we're not going to see all the building elements. So, for instance, the roof may not be visible. So, we switch to a 3D view. We select the entire building. And when you do that, I mean, one of the first things you'll note is that there is a whole series of these things sticking out of it, which are pins. So the existing model, I call this protection. It just means that everything is pinned in place, so hopefully nothing will be moved by accident. I guess if you can sort of have a look, if you can actually sort of see through the translucent blue colour, you'll actually see that this model actually contains all of its roof framing as well, so there's quite a bit to this model. So we've selected the whole building with the intention of changing the phase created. However, if we look at the properties over here, you'll see that this is greyed out. So I did say briefly in our last session that sometimes when you do this sort of thing, you'll get this greying effect because there are some aspects of the model that you can't change the phase of. And if those things are selected, then it will prevent you from changing the phase of anything. So you have to go through a process of elimination and try and determine what those things are that are preventing you from, or those things that are not phaseable, and eliminating them from the selection list. So the thing is that, and I don't expect you to do that, but you may have to do it for yourself one day if you're actually undertaking phasing a project, or if you're phasing a project in Revit. things like tags, lines, annotation objects, and other miscellaneous items are not phase specific and must be filtered from the selection. Now, I've done this many times myself, so I know what those aspects are of the project, and it's only really through a filter that we can perhaps deselect certain parts of it, which would allow us to move forward. So that's your next task. So once, with the whole thing selected, how do you actually get a filter? Where do you find the filter?
You modify up with the picture of the filter?
Yes. Yep. Perfect. So note that you've got the filter button up here. You've also got a filter little funnel down here, bottom right hand corner. Both of them will actually put this filter dialog on screen. Now the highlighted categories need to be unticked. Okay, so with those removed, you can then go over to your properties, and you can then change the face created of the existing objects. So they then get changed to existing. All okay with that? Okay, so having done that, we can just click out here and just deselect the lot. So if we were to select a wall, for instance, now, and have a look at the properties, the wall that I've selected under phase created is set to existing. Same with the roof, for instance. So what we're going to do is go back to the floor plan view. And your walls should now have turned a solid black. So why have they changed appearance?
Because they're existing.
Because they're existing?
Isn't it because they're in a previous phase?
They're in a previous phase, yes. So the thing is that the floor plan view, what phase is the floor plan view set to? Sorry? New construction. Our building elements now are set to existing. So if the building elements, because we've set them back to a previous phase, because they're existing and we've set them back in time, the phase of the view is current. Because there's a difference in time now, a difference between the building element and the phase of the view, a graphic override is applied to the building elements and they change appearance. how could we actually get our floor plan looking normal in this view? What simple thing could we do to actually make it look normal in this view?
Change the face pre-existing. Change the face pre-existing.
Change the phase of the view to existing is perfect. That's what you do. So if you remember in our last session, if the phase of the object is the same as the phase of the view, then no override is applied and the building element looks normal. If the phases are different, then the building element has an override applied and it will appear differently. Okay? Which is the case here. Alright? If I change the phase here to existing, then everything goes back to normal. Because the phase of the view is the same as the phase of the object, building object. Okay? If I change this back to, if I change the phase of the view to new construction, then I get an override. Okay? Which is essentially what we sort of covered in our last session. Like I said, it's going to, it's a new concept. It's going to take a little while to sort of get the hang of things. You're going to, make the odd mistake here and there and perhaps not understand exactly what's going on, but I'll try and explain as best I can. Okay, so what we're going to do now, if I go back to the document here, in part 4.3, we're going to start setting up our floor plan views. So what we need essentially is a floor plan for the existing building. We need a floor plan for the demolition. And we need a floor plan for the finished final build. Okay? So they become plan existing, plan demo, and plan complete. Alright, so again, exactly as we did in our last session. And what we're going to do here is just make a copy or a duplicate of our floor plan view. And we're going to rename this first one plan-existing. Okay, so plan existing. We're then going to make a copy of plan existing. Okay, so you can make a copy of plan existing, and then rename it plan-demo. Okay, so plan existing, make a copy of that one. Rename that one. And that one becomes plan-demo. Now, if you go back to the plan existing floor plan, and in this view, you are actually going to change the phase to existing. Okay, so so everything goes back to normal. So with the plan existing view, let's say we go back to 1975 when this building was first built, so, and that's what it looked like. So we're going to use this this plan existing. We're going to use this as a reference. We're going to come back to this from time to time, just to make sure that we haven't made any errors when we're actually doing our demolition and rebuilding. So we're just going to use this, just do a quick check on this every so often to make sure that this is all still intact. We haven't removed or added anything that we shouldn't do. And essentially, if we do it all correctly, this will remain unchanged, apart from a few cut lines in the walls. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll go back to just open up the plan, demo floor plan. So that one should have the black solid walls. So is everyone okay so far? Okay, so if everyone's okay, we'll go to 4.4, which has changed the cut patterns for existing objects. So essentially what we want to do is, for our existing walls, for instance, we don't want to see them as solid black, we want to see them as lines, but half tone. So we're going to do this through the phasing dialog, which we did have a look at, we've had a look at previously. So to open up this dialog, we go to the Manage tab, Phasing panel, and we click Phases. We then go to the Graphic Overrides tab. So it's existing objects that we're changing the appearance of. In particular, the cut pattern that is produced when a wall is cut, for instance, which it is in the floor plan, and things like sections. So if you click directly on this little black band, all you really need to do is untick the visible option here. Okay. And then just go across and put a tick here next to it, or in the half tone column. Okay, so click the black band here, remove the tick, which I just did, and then close that, okay that, and then come back and then untick this option here. Sorry, tick that option, my apology. So your floor plan in the demo plan view should look like this. So just lines, but half tone. Now, you'll need to do a couple more things before we actually start setting up for the demolition. Do you all know where visibility graphics is, or where you actually open up the visibility graphics dialog? So View tab over here, visibility graphics. So if you recall, this is a dialog that controls the visibility of various categories and subcategories. So in other words, we can turn things on and off. We can change the appearance of certain categories through this dialog. Now, if we make changes through this dialog, does this affect the whole project? If we turn something off in this dialog, does it actually turn it off in all views or just this view?
All views.
Just this view. Okay. So yeah, just be aware that anything that's done through this dialog only affects the current view. Okay.
Is that the same as like the glasses down below as well?
It's linked, yes, yeah. So if in fact, if we go through, if I turned off my windows, for instance, if I scroll down and I untick windows and click OK, it's now turned off all my windows in the view. Now, I guess to turn them back on again, we could use the light bulb. The light bulb down here is the reveal hidden elements. It turns this feature on, and anything that is this magenta colour in this view is currently hidden in the view. Okay, so that's what the light bulb does. It just shows us what's hidden. And if, for instance, we want to turn our windows back on, all you need to do is actually select one of them, go up here, unhide category, and when you do that, it turns a light grey colour, which means it's no longer hidden. And when you then go back to, or click this button here, it takes you back to your normal view and you can see your windows. Now the thing is that visibility graphics will essentially do the same thing. So if I see how Windows is now ticked, if I untick Windows and click Apply, they go. If I re-tick Windows and click Apply, they come back. So re-ticking the category here is exactly the same as doing a reveal hidden elements and then clicking on one of the objects and doing unhide category. So it's all sort of tied in. Does that make sense? So in this dialog, what the instructions are asking you to do is to actually go to the annotation categories tab. So the thing is that items in the view can be sort of broken down into model and annotation categories. So if you ever want to turn off things like text and dimensions, you do it through annotation. If you want to turn off model elements, you do it through the models tab. Okay, so doors and windows are considered model. Dimensions and text are considered annotation. Now, what we need to do essentially is go down to the R section and put a tick against reference planes. So remember, reference planes are those red dashed lines. So we need to actually turn that category on again because we need to work with reference planes and we need to be able to see them so that we can work with them. So reference planes on. Now when you click OK and just roll out, you'll actually see 3 existing reference planes. Okay, see the 3 of them on screen at the moment? Okay. Now, this may seem strange, but I'm going to ask you to hide those 3 reference planes. But I'm not going to get you to hide them by category. I'm going to get you to hide them by element. So what does that mean? If you hide
They don't
something,
exist. The hidden norm views.
well, whatever we hide, whatever changes we make in this view only apply to this view. Yeah. But when you hide something by category, what does that mean?
You hide all of that category.
Yeah, so with our windows, we probably, I don't know, we might have had 6 or 7 windows. So when you hide windows by category, it means it hides all windows in the view. So anything that belongs to the window category will be hidden. So it hides them all. When you hide something by element, it means that you're hiding that one thing. Okay? So you might have, you might have a whole series of reference planes on the screen, but if you hide one of them by element, it just hides that one and leaves all the rest there. That's the difference. So that's by element or by category. Okay? Now the thing is that we need to draw some new reference planes, but I'd like to just hide these 3 because I don't want you to delete them by mistake because they need to be there. Okay, so we're just toggling, just turning these off to protect them. So how do you hide something by element?
Right click on it and it goes to the hide by element.
So you right click on it, you go hide in view, and you go by elements. Very good. Okay, see that you've got elements and category. So if I'd selected category, all 3 would have turned off. If I choose element, the one I've selected turns off only. Okay. So the thing is that for the other 2, I could click one of them and then control click the second, and then just right mouse over the first and do hide in view by elements. And it should hide both of them. It hasn't. So we have to do it have to do them one by one. So just hide those 3 reference planes. So here we are. So we're now at step 5.3, and we're about to demolish parts of the existing building But before we do that, what I'd like you to do is we need to, so if you can appreciate that some of the, some walls, part walls need to be demolished. So in order to actually demolish part of the wall, we need to actually split the wall and then demolish a certain part of it. So if you recall in our last session, we did exactly that. We actually cut walls through, didn't we? And demolished them. But how did we actually set that up? How did we achieve that split?
Modify and split with gap.
Yes, good. Yeah, we used the split with gap tool. What did we do before we actually used the tool?
Reference.
We added reference planes, and what did we do? What did we put on the reference planes? How did we position the reference planes exactly? Align dimension. Yeah, we put a dimension on. Okay, so we need to set that up first. So my suggestion with this assessment is to find out where you need to split the walls. Draw in your short reference planes, you know, roughly in those positions. Put dimensions on them, and then get the reference planes set correctly in their positions. So, if you have a look at the plan here on page 8, there are three areas where you need to do this. See down here, see this this part of the wall here. So this back part of the wall needs to come out. So we need to actually put a reference plane through here, just above this window. Okay, so that's number one. Number two is this this wall here, and it's going to be split through here. So that's area number 2. Area number 3 is through here. Okay, so what I would do is just add reference planes to these 3 locations, add your dimensions to them, and then make sure that your dimensions equal exactly what is showing here. So 1216, 920, and 3474. Okay. Now, just to make life a little bit easier, can I get you to turn off the roof? Now, I don't mean hide the roof, I mean turn it off. So how would you actually stop the roof from showing without actually hiding it? So the question is, how are we seeing the roof? What mechanism within the properties of the view is allowing us to see the roof? What is the roof considered?
Level, the ceiling level.
Yes, but it has but the appearance of it has a specific name. It's because because it normally sits above us, it's considered an, anyone know the answer?
View range.
No.
Is it like underlay?
Underlay. Yes, very good. Underlay. So, to not show the roof, we need to adjust or change the underlay, in particular the range base level of the current view. So that's in the view properties, this underlay area here. So it's currently set to FCL, so finished ceiling level. If we change that back to none, the roof will disappear. So we turn it off because it's just going to flicker as we move over it, and it's just going to be an annoyance while we work. So, reference planes, we can find on the architecture tab, work plane panel, reference plane, over here. And what we do is we simply just draw a reference plane through here, first one there. So this is just above the toilet window. And we'll actually add the aligned dimension at the same time. Now that's, that dimension is going to the inside of the wall down here. Okay? There. So once you put the dimension in, we need to obviously move the reference plane, and to move it we need to select it, and by selecting it, it allows us to update the dimension to the correct distance. So that being 3474. So once you've done that, you can then move to this area here and put your reference plane through here. Add the dimension. And that one needs to be 920. Okay, so having done that one, you can then move up to here. Okay, so select the reference plane and change this one to 1216. So once you're happy that you've got your reference planes drawn and in their correct position in all three of these locations, what you'll then do is go to the Modify tab, choose Split with Gap, and then just close to the reference plane but not on it, just place a split in the wall. Okay, so while you're in this area, after you've placed the split, just hit the escape key a couple of times and exit the tool. Select one of the walls And you recall in our last session, what we did was we actually clicked on the padlock to unlock it. And if I deselect the wall now, these two walls are split, so they're no longer connected. And the idea is that we have to bring each of these walls back to the reference plane using the align tool. So align, select the reference plane, select the end of the wall. Okay, select the reference plane, select the end of the wall. Okay, so it's important that the split coincides with the reference plane. So what you'll need to do is then, once you've split the this rear west wall, you can then move to this internal wall here. So this is the one with the 920 against it. Again, modify split with gap. Just put the split close to the reference plane. You can at the same time just click on the padlock and unlock it, and then hit escape a couple of times and just clear the tool. And again, exactly the same process. Align, select the reference plane. The order that you choose here, or the sequence you do it, is important. So you need to click this one first. So reference plane, this one first. Now why I say that is that, I'll just undo that. If I do this, and I pick this one first, you'll get an error, okay? Because you're trying to pull this wall over this wall. Alright, so to avoid that, just need to work out which one to pick first. So you actually reduce this one first, then pick the reference plane, and then extend this one. So do it in a logical way. Okay. So once you've done that one, you can then move on and do the final one. So split with gap. Okay, just place the split underneath. Unlock. Hit escape. And then align the ends of the wall with the reference plane. Okay, we're going to go to a break shortly, but this initial setup is quite crucial. It's important that we get this correct, because if we don't, this is going to have a flow-on effect, and it's very, very difficult to go back and retrospectively correct these modifications. So again, just make sure that this is all correct, all your dimensions are correct, and you've got your walls split on those reference planes. So when we come back from the break, essentially what we'll do is delete the reference planes, which will in turn delete the dimensions because we don't need them. just the ones that we've put in, and then we can go through and demolish the other walls and doors and windows and so forth to complete the demolition process. Right, so now that we've split the walls, we can now go back to our demolition plan, which is within the assessment document, and use the demolition tool to just systematically work through and demolish the walls and doors and windows that are indicated in the plan itself. Now, if you recall from our last session, the demolition tool you'll find on the Modified tab, Geometry panel, and it's this tool here, Demolish. So it's just simply a case of clicking on the walls or part walls that you need to demolish. Now, we need to be quite clear that, for instance, this opening here, which is 920. Now, it includes a door and part of the wall. So it's important that, or it's important to note that in this case, you don't need to select the door and demolish it. You just actually find the wall, so click on the wall and demolish the wall, and in turn that will actually demolish the door. So when you're demolishing these part walls or these split walls, make sure that you select the wall and not the doors or windows that are contained within the wall. Okay, so you just need to click the wall and that will take the door out as well. Okay, same here. So this wall here contains two windows. So if you just select the wall, it automatically takes the windows as well. As is the case with this wall up here. So just select the wall and the door goes with it. Now, this opening here is demolished. So just again, just zoom in so you can see what you're doing, and just select the opening, not the wall itself. Now, the other thing that you'll need to do is in the properties of this view, just scroll down to the phase controls and change the phase filter to show previous and demo. Okay, so that way you ensure that the view displays correctly. So show previous and demo. Now, once you've, even before you before you demolish those part walls, or even afterwards, you can simply just select the reference planes and delete them, and which will delete the dimensions. So you don't need the reference planes or the dimensions. So from here, it's just a case of just going through and carefully demolishing the parts of the building as per the plan here. So on this wall here, for instance, yes, there is a sliding door that will go, and a window here that will go. Also, don't forget there's a downpipe here which will be removed. Okay, so yeah, not a great deal to do. So that's the demolition complete. So when you have finished the demolition, again, just go back to the existing floor plan and just confirm that it is all still intact. As I say, the only real indication that you've demolished will be these split walls. Other than that, the floor plan should remain unchanged. Alright, now just before we move on, I've just noticed that since we've turned the roof off, we can actually see these little lines coming out. Now these are something that I've created called an infill panel. Okay, they do need to be they are part of the model, but they don't need to be visible in this view. So what I'm going to do is I've actually set up what's called a filter to actually turn them off. So I guess I'll perhaps talk about filters, view-related filters a little bit later in the unit. But for now, if you can just open up your visibility graphics dialog. Go across to the Filters tab and go down to the Add button, and there's a filter name or a filter called Infill Panels, so this one here. So just highlight it, select it and then click OK. So it just adds a filter called Infill Panels to the filters list. It automatically puts a tick next to it. Can you just untick it? And when you click apply, those little panels will disappear in the view. Okay, so if you can do that for me. So it just cleans up the view. So having done that, we've now finished with the demolition plan for the moment. We will invariably come back to this in a future session to add a bit more, draw in some line work and add some notations, but that's to come. So if you can just save your project for the moment, so do a save or a Control S. And we're now moving on to page 9, part 6, which is looking at the new construction. So we're going to create a new floor plan view, change its phase and import an AutoCAD plan to be used as a guide during the reconstruction phase. So new walls to be added to the existing building and a new wall type is required for the proposed extension. So once we've actually added all our new walls, we'll then look at things like doors, windows, plumbing fixtures, kitchen and other elements. So in 6.1, we're going to create a new view, and the view name is going to be called Plan Complete. So this will be our final floor plan. And once we've created Plan Complete, it's important that we change the phase filter to something called Show Complete. Now the phase filter of Show Complete will change the view back to, essentially it will show existing and new construction. They will look identical, and it will also remove or hide anything that we've tagged for demolition. Okay, so we're going to create that view called Plan Complete. So we're going to do that by making a copy of the plan demo. Okay, so new view called Plan Complete, and we're going to change the phase filter to Show Complete. Okay, so when we change the phase filter, the wall appearance will then revert back to normal. And anything that we've demolished will be hidden. Now, it says open one of the elevations and add a new level. Name it New FCL and set the level height to 2,700. Okay, so let's do that. Okay, so new level there at 2.7, and the level name is new FCL. Now, when you've done that, I'll get you to come back to plan complete. And it's at this point that we're going to import an AutoCAD drawing with the purpose of tracing it to add new walls and so forth. So what you'll need to do is just jump back to Learn to part 1. Now, underneath the project startup file, you'll see the AutoCAD file there. So you'll need to download this file, and it needs to be placed into the AutoCAD folder that you created in step 2. Okay, so there's a folder called AutoCAD Files. So there's no need to open this in AutoCAD, we just need to download it. So it goes into AutoCAD Files. And then come back to Revit. Okay, so what we're going to do is if you zoom out in the plan complete view, just zoom out, and to use the AutoCAD file, we're going to import it and place it in the current view. So to do that, we go to the View tab, Insert tab, and we go to the Import panel and we choose Import CAD. Just navigate back to the AutoCAD Files folder and then just click on the AutoCAD drawing file, but don't click Open just yet. Okay, when you're importing an AutoCAD file, down below here there are a number of settings that you can change. Things like positioning, the level it's placed at, the import units, the colours, so we can actually choose to preserve the AutoCAD line colours. Anyone that's used AutoCAD will know what that means. Or we can actually bring the AutoCAD drawing in as all black lines. We're going to preserve the colours, colours will make it a bit easier for us to, I guess, distinguish between the Revit line work and the AutoCAD line work. So that's the only reason we're sort of preserving colours. Now, the important, we're not going to change anything else here, but the important option to tick is current view only. Okay, if you don't tick current view only, you're going to get this AutoCAD plan in many other views where you don't want it. Okay, including 3D views. So current view only, and once you've done that, you can then click open, and you'll see the AutoCAD plan drop in. So there it is there. Now, when you pre-select it and then actually click to select it, it'll have a pin in it. Now the thing is that what we have to do is we have to actually move the plan and align it with our Revit walls. So we select the AutoCAD drawing, and we just click on the head of the pin and unpin it for the moment. And then we can very carefully then move over it and left click and hold and just drag the plan to about here. Okay, so just close to the walls here, but not on them just yet. And the idea is if you zoom in nice and close, what we need to do is we need to move the plan to its final position by aligning it with the Revit walls. Okay, so for this, we use the Align tool. And the reference, first pick will be a line on the Revit wall, and the second pick will be the corresponding line on the AutoCAD wall. Okay, so a line in that direction first, and then a line in this direction second. Okay, so the two are perfectly aligned. And when you've done that, you can then select the AutoCAD plan and click on the pin head and then just repin it so it doesn't move. Alright, so we've got the AutoCAD plan is now aligned and locked. Now, given that we haven't got long, only sort of maybe 15 minutes left of the session, I'm thinking that perhaps we will have a look at creating the new wall type and drawing in the new walls in our next session. I think just to finish off today's session, and we'll probably finish a little bit earlier today, is just to finish off today's session. The AutoCAD plan that you've imported, when you click on it, you'll notice that, see the green tab up here, it lists the name of the AutoCAD drawing, and it has these options here under Import Instance. So delete layers, explode, and query. Now, if you're ever working with an AutoCAD drawing in a floor plan, for instance, please do not, and I underline do not, explode it. okay? Do not explode it. Because the AutoCAD plan at the moment is one entity. If you explode it, it becomes a series of individual lines, and it just makes a mess. So to get rid of it, you're going to have to try and select all of these individual parts. So we leave it as it is, but the thing is, and again, if you've never used AutoCAD, you probably won't know what the concept of layers means. Who has used AutoCAD? A few of you? Okay. Yeah, essentially, the AutoCAD drawing has something called layers. So the different parts of the drawing are on things called layers, and we can actually in the Revit view we can actually turn off parts of the AutoCAD drawing without exploding it by turning off its layers. And an easy way to do that, so for instance, I mean the thing is that the AutoCAD drawing contains text and dimensions and a lot of other things which we want to just turn off for the moment so that we can just clean it up so that we just are showing the walls in blue so we know what we need to do. So in selecting the AutoCAD drawing, what we can do is we can actually click Query, and when you when you click Query, you can actually see the individual parts of the AutoCAD drawing just flickering, just highlighting. Now when you click on a dimension line, for instance, Revit will tell you that that particular dimension line is on a layer or level called A-ANO-dims. Okay? Now what we can do is we can actually click Hide in View and it will turn the dimensions off. Now and this is turning the dimensions off of the AutoCAD drawing. Okay? And while we're in Query, we can, if I want to turn off this bit of text here, I can click on it and click Hide in View. And because all text is on the same layer, it should turn all the text off. So other things that I'm going to turn off, for instance, are these plumbing fixtures. The access hatch, these green lines, this line work here. So essentially, and basically we just want to leave the line work for the walls. So I'll also click on this rainwater tank, which is on P-tanks, and hide that one as well. So it just helps us to clean up the view so that we're just left with those that blue line work for the walls. So I'll hit the escape key a couple of times. Now, let's say you wanted to turn those layers back on again. Any idea where you'd do that?
Visibility graphics.
Anyone agree or disagree? Does that sound logical or reasonable? If you had to work it out for yourself.
Review hidden elements.
I don't know. No, that will reveal the whole. Oh yes, actually, yes. Yeah. Look at that, eh? Reveal hidden elements. Very good. So, but it will reveal the aspects of the AutoCAD drawing that are hidden, but can we bring them back through that? I don't think we can. Sorry, I haven't tried this before, but no. So yeah, at least it's showing us what's hidden. I guess yes. Eric, wasn't it? You said visibility graphics. So yes, that is that's the way back. But where?
Imported categories.
Imported categories. If I wanted to turn the entire floor plan off, I could actually untick that box there. See how the plan goes? But if you expand the little plus symbol here, you've then got a list of all the layers that make up that AutoCAD drawing. See them all there? So the ones that we've turned off are the ones that are unticked. So if I wanted to turn on the rainwater tanks, perhaps, I know that they're under P tanks. So it turns the plan back on, and it also turns that layer back on. Okay, so if you ever have to turn those layers back on again, you know how to do it. All right. So this is where we'll leave the project for today, and in our next session, we'll actually create a new wall type, and we'll start adding the walls for the extension. So we'll put the walls in, the new walls for the extension, and we'll then add in the 90mm walls inside here for the just to rebuild the existing. Okay. All right. So thanks everyone. We'll see you next session.